Welcome to ICS Arabia. We have a special guest today, Tobias Halmans, an OT incident responder, and we will cover mainly OT security and OT incident response in particular. Welcome, Tobias. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I'm very glad to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So why don't you tell us about yourself, brief information about you. When did you get started with OT security?
Yes, thank you. So I am into that field for a couple of years now. So before that, I was actually I'm a mechanical engineer, so I come from the OT world, purely so to say. So that was what I have studied and what I digged deeper into. Then I focused on automation solutions in university, and after that as well, I even went to China to see what's going on there in the production world, and then I got my first jobs, and that's basically how I came into OT security. So rather an OT guy than a security guy. So at least that's what I know. There are two kinds of persons in OT security: the OT guys and the security guys. So I'm one of the OT guys. So I had to learn the security stuff. That's a couple of years ago now. So I started with ISO 271 management systems, and that looked at the broad management level of things with OT security, and try to figure out what is most interesting for me, which of the fields we have here, and quite quickly it turned out that it would be incident response and also incident preparedness and everything around that topic. So I got aware that basically everybody who operates any kinds of assets, of course, needs to make efforts to prevent incidents and do risk management and see how to reduce the impact and the likelihood of those risks. So there's a lot of effort placed in there. But on the other hand, I saw there is only little effort placed in to be prepared if the incident does happen. So the likelihood is never zero, and you always need to, of course, try to prevent the incident on the one hand, and also try to be prepared for the incident to happen anyway. So I'm rather on that second side. That's what I chose. So luckily, my employer Admiritia here in Germany allowed me to just to step into that and develop an OT specific framework basically that we follow here. There's not much out there specifically for OT. I think we will maybe we can elaborate later a little bit on that, but that's what I found. As of today, I'm the head of the incident response department at Admiritia, and coordinating all the stuff that has somehow to do with incident preparedness. So it's not only about the response, but also a big deal about preparedness, things like incident response plans, incident response organizations, building up teams, training teams, building up business continuity organizations and plans and things like that. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing at the moment, and what I'm happy with, and what I hope is something that I can do in the future for a very, very long time still.
Okay. So when you joined the company, did you ask to be incident response immediately, or
No.
and why did you why did you choose it in particular, incident response?
Yeah, good question. As I said, I took a look at the broad opportunities that you have in security. So as I mentioned, ISO 27001, that's not it's not an OT standard, as you might know. It's just a general management system standard. And our company is quite focused to apply all this to OT asset operators and try to make this somehow bearable for them, and try to to extract value from those standards. As I said, I picked the incident response because I saw it somehow undervalued. So as I said, a lot of effort is spent on preventing incidents, on mitigating risk. But it would be a huge mistake. That's what I tell my customers and my colleagues and everybody that I meet. It would be a huge mistake to assume that the incident is not going to happen at all. So you still need to be prepared. So yeah, that's that's how I got into it, basically. And of course, it has some. It's nice for me, at least. It's nice to work in the field. It's very technical, but on the other hand, it's also you need to have communication skills. You can just bring in a lot of expertise and experience, and you of course you earn a lot of trust of the of course poorly and sadly attacked companies and organizations that we serve. They trust us. They put we are the last resort for them. So I feel very, very trusted, and a very big deal of responsibility. And I think that's what I like as well about it.
Yeah. So were you familiar about incident response before you proposed that you want to do it, or you had to discover?
Yes. Well, of course, I wasn't completely familiar with that. I would even say I'm not completely familiar with it today. So every day I learn something new. So of course, I used to have insights. I used to have. I used to work hands-on with senior incident responders on cases, and of course, I used to work on other projects as well. I used to work on building up management systems and doing penetration testing, and I do that. I still do that as of today, from time to time. But it somehow came to me that this field seems to be the one I like most, so to say.
Okay. And do you work with the IT department, or do you have an IT department separately, or do you work alone with incident response?
You mean if we have an IT incident response team or an OT incident response team separated?
Yeah. Are they separate, or are they all in one?
Well, no. The simple answer is no. They're not separated, because you cannot completely separate IT and OT incident response. They are different, but they have things in common, and they have a lot of things in common still. So we decided not to separate that. Of course, we have incident responders that have their focuses. So some of I mean that's always the case. Some have a focus on, let's say, cloud environment. So that's a couple of years ago, I'd said, okay, that's nothing to care about in OT, but in today's world, you cannot just ignore it. So like today, as of today, we see cloud infrastructure right in the middle of critical infrastructure asset operators. Like a water treatment, like traffic lights control, and all of this is talking to the cloud or even energy grid and energy grid operators. So that was actually something we had to learn in recent years, how to do incident response about that. And of course, we have focused people that know how to do that. Let's say better than how to handle or how to do a PLC forensics for Siemens PLC, for example. So as I said, we don't have separate teams, but we have somehow separate fields of competence. And I think that's something that is unavoidable. You need to work together as a team. There's no single incident responder that I know that I would trust to say, if he says I can do everything, everything just as good as this is just not I wouldn't believe it if somebody said it. So it's always a cooperation of IT and OT, and that's how we work, basically.
Do you think an organization should have an incident response team right from the beginning, or do they have like focus on other basic things and then move on to incident response when they're ready?
Oh, good question. I see that incident response is something that that most organizations care about in the second or in the third step of their security roadmap. So, well, it's and that's okay. I mean, it's okay to start with basic things like risk assessment and basic security measures, like network segmentation, endpoint protection, password management, central directory services, and stuff like that. Try to secure that. Do email security. That's not something that usually that's not a problem in OT, but for IT, it's a huge thing that can prevent incidents. So yes, I would say, you can start with more basic things, and then advance to to building up an incident response team. So that's what my statement is. So building an incident response team is the second or the third step, or even later in your security roadmap. That's okay. But my statement is you should take care of incident preparedness as a whole, or incident management in an earlier place. So building up an incident response team for an organization is not always the first step for incident preparedness, I would say. Some organizations, they don't have their own incident response teams at all. So if they're small, small companies, small organizations, whatever, they usually rely on external support. So they have a couple of OT security responsibles. That's it. And if there's a huge incident coming in, then there is somebody who has the ability to decide, okay, I want to ask for help now. I will use my incident response retainer that I have with my trusted service supplier. And that's how incident response works in those organizations. So yeah, and yes, it's like maybe step 2 or 3 on the roadmap, but it's an important one.
Cool. Okay. Is incident response for somebody who is like beginner level, or he has to experience, learn other things, then move on to be an incident responder?
As a career path, you mean?
Yeah, as a career path.
Yes, you. No, it's not a. I wouldn't say it's a beginner. It's a job for beginners. It's always good to have experience in the field of, as I said, in the field of OT or in the field of security. For incident responders, it's better. I think better off if you have experience in security, because I can say from my personal experience, there's a lot of stuff you have to learn. So I come from I'm an engineer, so I'm used to design systems and design automation systems in a way that they will. They're supposed to work. They're supposed to fulfill their purpose. And you don't think you don't that much think about what could go wrong or what could an evil adversary how can he do harm to my system. And there's a whole lot that I had to learn what can actually go wrong, and that was really surprising to me. So, and it's a really interesting journey. But I guess if you come from the other side, so if you already have experience in security, like for example, if you have done penetration testing, or even if you have done system administration or network administration, even if it's you will in those jobs you will have a lot of touching points with security. In OT engineering, you very rarely have. That's why I had to learn so much. So if you want to come into OT security incident response, my recommendation would be to focus on the security side first, maybe. And of course, you have to dig into the OT side as well. So I know from some of my colleagues' perspectives that came from the IT side, they also have struggles. So maybe it's just me assuming that I had the biggest struggles with everything, but maybe they also have had to learn things that were that I would take for granted in the OT world. So they were somehow wondering that you cannot rely on a system to be patched and updated, or even have an up-to-date operating system running, or even be connected to a network. So those things are the ones that you have to learn if you come from the other side. So coming back to your question, no, I wouldn't say it's an entry-level job. You have to bring some experience somehow. But of course, you can never expect that you are done learning. So somebody who would come to me and apply to be a team member, saying, okay, I know everything about, I'm so experienced, I know everything about incident response, I would be very skeptical. So I would prefer somebody coming to me and say, okay, I have some experience, but I know there's a lot left to learn, and that's simply the truth. Yeah, that's how it is, and that applies for me as well. So if I stop doing incident response for a couple of years now, there would be a lot of stuff that I'd had to catch up to.
Yep, totally agree. What about pen testing? What do you do? I mean, what do you pen test normally? Do you pen test the OT network, the OT systems, or the IT parts?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. So when it comes to OT pen testing, so what do we do concretely? So OT is nowadays still, as you and most of the listeners hopefully know, is segregated into Purview levels. And that's what we usually look at before we do the pen test and ask the customer twice, do you really want this to be pen tested? So if we look at the SCADA level, can we pen test the SCADA? Usually we try to test a redundant system or a test system. If that's not available, we can also test the productive system. That's what we do from time to time as well. But of course, you have to take special precautions. So it's not like if you have an IT pen test, well, to me, it always feels like that OT is totally special and that the world will come to an end if you crash over that SCADA system and thousands of people will be sitting in their homes without power or without water or whatever. Well, that's what our customers make us feel like, and I think it's of course it's true, and not always, but in the worst case, it can be true. Yeah, so we take special precautions. But as I know, if you test an IT system, a productive IT system, of course you have to ask the same questions. What happens if the database is destroyed? So, or if I write junk into the database, or if I extract the data that is in here, is it somehow personal identifiable data? Who's going to sue me if I extract that? So that's the IT questions that you ask. They might be sometimes even more complex. Yeah, and as I said, in our world, it's rather about what is the physical effect if something goes wrong. If we do a network scan on the PLC network, how will the PLCs react? The answer usually. So now we are on the going further down in the Purdue model. The further you go down, the more the more difficult it gets. So usually no one can tell what happens if you do an active scan in the PLC network. Nobody dares to try. Yeah, so we ask for, of course, we try to use test environments, lab environments wherever possible, or redundant systems, and or try to tailor the pen test in a way that it doesn't hurt. Well, that you can ensure that the production is not hurt. For example, you use a less aggressive method, or you simply do a configuration audit of the of the PLC program, or a it doesn't have to be a configuration audit. Usually, maybe you can just extract the PLC program, load it into your own PLC, and do the test. So, yeah, I think that's the special things, the special thoughts you have to do when you do OT penetration testing. I wouldn't say that it's more difficult or let's say more dangerous than some IT penetration testing, but you definitely need to know what's in front of you and need to ask the right questions.
Yep. So you are a chemical engineer. Do you work in a chemical facility or it's different?
I'm not a chemical engineer, sorry. I'm a mechanical engineer.
Mechanical.
So,
Sorry
mechanical.
about that.
Yes, but we do work in chemical facilities.
All right. Yeah, mechanical, they work everywhere, but chemicals normally they have some.
Yes, it's my privilege to work everywhere as well. So chemical facilities is something.
Yes.
Yeah, that we work with, but also all kinds of critical infrastructure as well: water, power.
Yeah, the mechanical they have
traffic.
broad many industries. Yes.
Everything that is somehow moving.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yes. Did you choose to become mechanical or just?
Yes, of course I choose it. So
No, like you wanted to, or you just heard that mechanical is good.
Well, that was I was quite young when when I made that decision. So
yeah.
Well, I was always kind of fascinated, as I said, by everything that moves by its own. So yeah, not only purely focused on cars or on stuff like that, but really by all kind of engines, everything that's somehow designed and constructed in a way to do work that the human body cannot do. So that's that's basically what I was inspired by as a young boy. And I was good at math, so to say. So yeah, that's why I was quite sure that I would like to work as in the technical field.
All right.
So and as I said, that security twist in my career that came later, and it turned out to be a very happy one, because yeah, that's basically exactly what makes me happy every day.
Good. I'm glad you're happy. So tell us about incident response now. Have you had or experienced any incidents yourself?
You mean within our company?
Your company or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, we do. Well, we do incident response as a service, so of course we experience we experience incidents. So
give us examples, please. Different categories like ransomware,
okay,
hacking, whatever.
okay, yeah. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about here. I would like to try focus on what's
Briefly,
going
yeah.
on in the OT world, right?
Yes.
So yeah, trying to give you categories. So I think one major category is incidents spreading from the IT into the OT world, or they must be assumed to have spread it into the OT world, and we are consulted, also quite a big deal if this question is not yet answered. So that happens quite often. So they ask us for help. They know there's already something going on in the IT space. Maybe they have their own IT SOC and IT incident response team taking care of that. So, for example, if you are a global company and yeah, let's take the chemical sector as an example. Very common in the chemical sector is you have a global IT and you have local OT, because the plants are here in Europe, they are quite old. Perhaps in the US, you also have quite a lot of old plants. They have changed their they have been bought and sold amongst companies. So and they keep their stuff, which is taking care about the OT at site. So there's quite a huge gap in the organization between IT and OT. So if it happens that the IT in such a company is attacked, yeah, it might be that they, as I said, they have an IT SOC, they have an IT incident response team to take care about that on a global scale. But they don't know if that's has actually spread into any of the plants. Usually at the first place, there's no effect visible. So everything is operating normal. But of course, there is a huge danger, a huge threat to the operations of the plants, and you want to make sure that it stays that way. So that's I would say we see that quite often. That's a huge category of incidents that we need to take care of. So as the second category, I would say I'm a little bit distinguishing between the attack vector now. So as I said, very common attack vector is OT attacked via IT. The second one is perhaps OT attacked via anything that is somehow remotely accessible. So people think that the OT world is quite well segregated from the internet and from the outside world, and some unlucky organizations only get aware that that's not the case after there's an incident. So the unexpected remote attack, I would say a second category. So something that you're not aware of that is exposed to the internet, or something that you're aware of that's not properly patched. Of course, in some industries, you have to somehow manage decentral facilities like pipelines or power substations, things that are even unmanned, or also water facilities, somewhere outside in the country, in the countryside. You have to have some sort of WAN connection to those sites. And you need to do that securely. And there, a lot of OT incidents result from the fact that those facilities are not well secured. My point of view is that if you follow today's state of the art, remote, and if you use remote access state of the art remote access solutions, it is quite hard for an attacker to get in. but it's of course also quite hard for the organization to stay up to date in terms of state of the art. So I would say that's the second thing, second category. The third category is everything that comes from the inside somehow. So insider threat, of course, it affects OT a big deal, just as it affects IT. Maybe you as an insider, so if you are you want to to do harm to your own organization, you do have some advantages if you attack the OT in comparison to the IT. So usually there's less detection mechanisms, there's less personal authentication. So if one was an insider and thinking about attacking the IT or the OT world, perhaps the OT world is the better target, as long as you have the access rights. The insider. It could also be an external insider. So in production plants, you have a lot of service providers going in and out every day. So they have physical access. They need to do something. And usually they get access to very critical assets. So it's quite a challenge to oversee who does what and who has the capability to be an insider threat. So yeah, I would say that's the third category. So everything that comes from the inside, even something that is just unintentional. So when you talk about ransomware, of course, ransomware is the biggest portion of incidents you would see as a whole. But, well, depends on what you consider an incident. If a phishing mail is an incident for you, then of course this is perhaps the bigger portion. But I would usually define incident as something that really has an impact on the business processes. So, and ransomware certainly fulfills that criteria. Yeah, as I said, ransomware is something that may spread from the IT to the OT, or it may also be brought in by somebody who just doesn't have bad intentions, but who just ignores a security measure or a security rule. Who does, for example, if you don't scan your USB drive before you plug it into your SCADA or into your HMI. So we have seen that a lot as well. And then you you try to talk to people and try to find out what happened. So you ask people, okay, what did you do? Did you plug in a hard drive or USB drive here in that device? And they say, oh no, I didn't do it. And then if you're lucky, you can look at the logs and say, okay, but what about last week Thursday? So somebody plugged in and you were logged in, and yeah, those things are very hard to investigate.
Okay. And does it include sometimes digital forensic while you're doing the incident response?
It almost always does. So I remember one case where it was actually very easy. So the administrator admitted that he had clicked on the phishing email. That's then at least you know how the attackers got in and what the at what point in time they got in. So For incident well, I'm coming back to incident response. There's for incident response mainly focuses on restoring the operations. So digital forensics is something that you rarely need as a whole concept. Only for incident response, basically there's two questions that you want to have answered in incident response, and that you need forensics for. The first one is, as mentioned, what is the initial access, and what vulnerabilities have been exploited? How did the attackers get in? So I want to prevent the incident from coming back. The second question is, when did that actually happen? And that's mostly because I want to know which backups I can use. So how long do I have to get back to get clean backups? And as soon as you know that, you can start the recovery. Use the clean backups to restore the system and restart the operations. So I want, during incident response, I want those two questions answered, and I want, sometimes that's easy. So if you know the admin has clicked on the phishing mail, you know when it happened, and you have, of course, you need to verify some stuff, but you have a very good chance that this was actually the initial access of the breach. But in other cases, it may be more difficult. I've heard of cases where people don't even know until today what the initial access was. So that's of course then a hard decision. Can I go back to normal operations without knowing how they got in? And hoping that it doesn't happen again, that they just cannot exploit the same the same backdoor or the same vulnerability again in however they got in. So there's a huge realm of to what extent do I need to do forensics. So the more you know, the better. The less you know, the more you need to to do all that stuff, and also the more you need to be very clever and decide what you focus your resources on.
So talking about the resources, the digital forensic tools, do you have like specific tools tailored for OT, or do you use the regular available in the market? You know, the different tools.
We use the we use common incident response tools that you would use for IT as well. So most of the OT devices, they somehow use IT software, I would say. So they use Windows operating systems, Linux operating systems. I haven't seen any Mac OS in OT yet, but maybe that will change one day. Yeah, and so and for those operating systems, and also for the application software that runs on it, which also is proprietary, but the architecture is, in most cases, quite similar. So they use databases. They somehow use GUIs with I don't know, JavaScript or whatever they might use to build that up, and that's what you can use. I would say regular incident response tools for. Where it gets difficult is when when it really comes, for example, to PLC forensics, when you need to investigate a PLC program or a firmware or of an IoT device or something like that. For that, we usually use vendor-provided tools. So if you want to investigate a Siemens PLC program, yeah, we would take it into our lab and either load it into a Siemens PLC or use Step 7 or TIA portal to take a look at it. And there are also some specific Siemens tools that you can use for certain purposes. Also among among a network of PLCs, for example. So you can, for example, automatically derive asset information, firmware information. Those are basically admin tools or asset management tools that are provided by the vendor. And usually we don't really need specific forensic tools for those OT devices.
Interesting. Have you faced any incident where they need to back up for PLC or HMI? I heard that some organizations, they don't have backups for PLC and HMI. Is that true? So 2 questions.
I haven't. The answer is no. I haven't. Well, let me think. I haven't seen. Luckily, I haven't seen incidents where they don't have such a backup. I did incident preparation with some with some organizations that during that incident preparation, luckily they got aware that they need such a backup. Usually a PLC backup, I mean, talking about the PLC project. So that's what the engineers do. They when the plant is built, they spend quite a long time to engineer the PLC program. So they take all the sensors and actuators, that maybe thousands of them, into account. What do they actually do? How are the signals processed in the PLC? And that takes quite a lot of time. And then they click on a button, and the PLC project file is exported and loaded into the PLC or into different PLCs or whatever. So yeah, during incident preparation work, like exercises or incident response planning, we always come to the point where the asset operator gets aware, if he's not yet aware, that this PLC project is actually the crown jewel of such a plant. So an HMI is also critical. So if you need to re-engineer your HMI, that also takes a lot of time. But usually you can, or most operators, they dare to start the operation even with the most basic HMI visibility. So you want to get restarted. You don't want to wait for the best possible HMI visuals to be engineered. Usually you can start with something simple as long as you can as you can do the restart. But you cannot do that without the PLC project file, and that's why that's the crown jewel. So if that one's gone, depending on the size of the plant, you may spend years on re-engineering it. So yes, that's critical. As I said, luckily we didn't have any incidents yet where that kind of backup was needed and where it wasn't available. So yes, that's a crown. Of course, yeah. Well, I'm talking from a let's say a chemical industry perspective. So when I say it may take years to re-engineer it, that would definitely be the case for big, for example, for petrochemical plants. If you go to manufacturing industry where they have like small production islands with one machine and there is one PLC attached to that machine, that may be not that big issue as in the process industry. Yeah. So generally speaking, it's a crown jewel, but it of course depends on the industry.
Yes, totally. How often do asset owners have, or yourself, to do tabletop exercises? You recommend the asset owner?
I would recommend to do it at least on a yearly basis. So we are talking, we are talking purely about OT incident response tabletop exercises. So long term, but I think it makes sense to pronounce it and to organize it in that way. As I said, the incident preparedness and the putting down the incident response team is in most organizations that I see as something that's one of the later steps on the roadmap. So the most important thing at the beginning is that you the people that you assign into the incident response team, and those are not only, or should definitely not only be IT guys. You need your PLC engineers. You need your SCADA experts in the incident response team. So usually their daily job is not quite touched by security in these days. It gets more and more over the years, but still that's not something that they grew up with, and that's not something that was in their job description when they were hired for the job. So those kind of people, those are the kind of people that you put into your incident response team, into your OT incident response team. And so you need to find a very good start for them to get ready. And that's where tabletop exercises come into place. The tabletop, as the name says, is something you do in a room around a table, and you usually don't touch any kind of computer system during that exercise. So you just give the scenario and let the people and let the team discuss what they're going to do about it, what problems will arise, and that's, I think, the very best start for an incident response team to get familiar with the field of incident response. They will get an idea of what they really have to do in if an incident occurs. Yeah, so it's yeah, you have to teach them the very basics. So that's my experience. So and that's why those exercises are so important. And yeah, it makes sense to do it on a yearly basis at least. If you want them to do, for example, digital forensics as well, which is, as I said, is usually not at all in their job description. So they may very well rely on external support for that. But if the organization aims for a complete internal OT incident response team, then once a year is rarely enough. So you need, I would recommend those stuff has to be done on a monthly basis and has to be trained on a monthly basis, or at least every 2 months or something like that. That's what we do with our internal incident response team. We offer this as a service, and of course we need to get we need to stay ahead of the attackers, and that's quite a lot of work. And yeah, there's quite a high demand on skills and things you need to learn if you really want to do the whole thing. And as I said, that's this kind of demand meets a realm of, or an organization where security wasn't even part of anybody's job description when they got hired. So yeah, that's where you usually start off. And I'm lucky to accompany some OT asset owners on that journey for several years now. And it's really astonishing to see them grow in their capabilities. So starting off with the simple tabletop exercises, discussing simple things. So how do I detect the incident? How can I classify what I see here? And in the very first exercise, they spent a big deal on discussing about, is this even an incident what we see here, or is it something else? Can we go home now? What do we need to do about it? And the more often you repeat this exercise, the more mature the team gets, and that's really astonishing to see. And having said that, let me perhaps emphasize one more a specific thing about OT. So for OT, incident management is never a daily business. So we don't see OT incidents with physical consequences. We don't see it every day. It's still quite rare compared to what's happening in the IT world. So in the IT world, we have ransomware, we have data breaches every day and everywhere. So it's such a huge industry of cyber criminals attacking organizations all over the world. But they rarely really manage to get into OT systems. It's getting more and more, but still for a single organization, it's much more likely that you will get attacked in the IT world than that you will get attacked in the OT world. So again, the question is, how much resources do I really want to spend on my OT incident response team? and how much experience will they get on real incidents. And the truth is, it is still quite unlikely that they will get any experience in a couple of years. So that within a single organization. So if you as an organization have your own OT incident response team, it is quite likely that they will that they won't have any incidents for a couple of years in a row. So what do you do with them? You need to get them up to date still. You need to train them, spend time and money on training. And you don't really know if you will ever need it. It's much, as I said, it's much more unlikely as in the IT. The reason why you still need to do it is because the impact is unbelievably high, and the financial impact or the safety impact. And that's the reason why you need to do it. It's not so much about the likelihood. So if you have good mitigating measures in place, you can make it hard for the attacker. Yeah, and as I said, that's I think a key difference. So in the IT an IT incident management can be a daily business. So you can have incidents every day. It doesn't need to. They don't need to be quite severe. So okay, somebody clicked on that phishing email. What happened? Maybe nothing. Maybe we don't have any interruption on the business processes. We have investigated what is going on. Maybe the link wasn't even malicious. Okay, that's an incident. I will document it. Tomorrow we will have the next incident, and that's, I think, a huge difference in OT. It's never a daily business, but it's a low likelihood, high impact kind of thing that you are preparing for.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, let's sum up what you just said lately about the incidents, and there aren't many physical incidents, but I'm sure because you guys work in the incidents field as incident responders, you've seen many incidents, but they don't have physical, because we only depend on news and reports. What do you see that the others like us outside incident response don't see? Do you see many incidents? I'm not talking about physical one. I'm just saying incidents like whether internal, whether
you mean incidents in the OT world? How?
Yeah.
Yes. So luckily, we could say most incidents are, I would say, somehow contained before it really gets physical. There's safety out there, which of course catches a lot of what could go wrong. So that does its jobs. The safety does its job in many cases. But of course, that's not always given for granted, because you have to do active containment, and you have to actively respond to the incident in order to prevent it from getting physical. And luckily, what we see, I would say in the majority of cases, that is that works. So yeah, but it's not the vast majority, I would say. So we see, of course, a lot of so a physical consequence, as if you consider a production outage as a physical consequence, that's of course you see that quite often, although maybe not in the majority of cases, but still a huge portion. so nobody's injured, nobody's hurt, but you lose money because you have a production outage. But that's, to be honest, not always due to an OT cybersecurity issue. That's some, if you attack SAP, that may very well happen as well. So sorry, it's a little bit hard to answer your question. Production outages, or let's say service outages, of course they are quite likely, but that's not always that doesn't always have something to do with the OT, I would say. So yes, but if we're, for example, talking about critical infrastructure, I don't know, water being people sitting in their homes without power, without water, without heating. Luckily, this is something that can be prevented in most cases that I have seen so far.
Okay, Tobias, really, it's been really fun to talk to you, and I've learned a lot today with you. Entertaining journey, really.
Thank you.
But it's time now. I think otherwise we can go for on and on.
Yeah, we continue next time.
Sure, man. You're welcome. Any closing thoughts you would like to say before we leave?
Yes. So I think that the most important message that I would like to spread out there to organizations that that have to deal with incident preparedness. I think, yeah, when people see this, when people hear this, I wish all of you that you would be busy with preparing for an incident rather than with responding to an actual incident. So if that's the case, if you're thinking about the preparation, about the readiness, and if you're especially worried about your OT environment, you have all the right to be worried. So please consider that incident response in OT has special needs. I definitely recommend to set up separate incident response plans, put together a dedicated incident response team. Of course, you need to connect to your IT incident response resources in any case. But I definitely recommend to have your own plan and have your own playbooks, have your own exercises, have the right people in the exercise. Don't be don't expect too much of them. Think about if they are really, what they really know about security. What can you expect your engineers in terms of security? What do they already know? And what do you have to teach them? And there's a lot to be taught as an OT guy, as I am, to be enabled to do incident response. I went through all of that, and I'm happy to share that with any OT guy out there who wants to do the same. And my message is just please don't underestimate what it means to be adequately prepared.
Thank you for your advice, Tobias. I hope your message gets to as many people as possible. Especially, it is very important. This is very critical field, and everybody should protect it and take it seriously. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tobias.
Thank
See
you so
you.
much for having me here.
You're welcome. You're welcome, and see you all next time. Bye bye.